morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 415 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryo Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Monday, July 1st. Which means it's Canada Day, everybody. My second favorite day of the year after my birthday. And that's only because my birthday is the only day of the year that actually is all about me. Which the other days of the year, I just pretend. So, Canada Day. It's a great day across this nation. It's a good day for family, for celebration, also for commemoration, also for recognition of other things, because as we know, not everybody celebrates Canada Day. Members of the Indigenous community have their specific reasons. Members of the Francophone community have their specific reasons. So not everybody, it's not a joyous occasion for everyone. But for those of us for whom it is, I wish you an absolutely fantastic and wonderful day. And of course, we wanted to spend some of it with you. So here we are. A little later start because, it is a holiday, so we figured we'd get to sleep in a little. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. But before we go any further, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Well, sir, I think it's pretty good. I'm a little tired. Lola woke me up very early, so I took her out for a long walk and came back and prepped for the show. So I'm only on my second cup of coffee, so by the time we wrap things up, I might be fully awake.
Okay. Well, let's try to gently get you there. Unfortunately, no cup of coffee for me because, like we all know, kids and cubs, I do not understand how something that smells so good could taste so terrible. But I am perky, so I am with you today. Since it is Canada Day, why not start with a tiny, tiny little bit of history, courtesy of our friend Craig Baird from Canadian History A. He has 2 tweets for Canada Day, or for O Canada, I should say, our national anthem. One that appeared a week ago today, on the day of the Saint Jean-Baptiste, because a lot of people sometimes don't know this, but O Canada was actually first written and first performed for La Saint Jean-Baptiste. So on June, this one's 24th. Not from Craig. Yeah, it's not from Craig. Sorry, he was writing about Craig Bear, yes, but he was writing about something else with regard to O Canada. And not for Saint Jean Baptiste. But
well,
yes,
it only became our national anthem 44 years ago.
Yes, on officially on July 1st, 1980.
Correct.
But it came into being 100 years before.
Yes.
In 1880, the song was commissioned by Lieutenant Governor of Quebec, the Honorable Théodore Robitaille, to mark the Saint Jean-Baptiste Day celebrations in the city of Quebec on June 24th, 1880, a performance which was also meant to honor the Congrès national des Canadiens Français, or the National Congress of French Canadians. Calix Lavallée, known as Canada's national musician, was asked to compose the music for a poem written by Adolphe Basile Routier. And a little known fact, but there was a school in Ottawa called Routier when I was a very kid. When I was a little kid, it still exists, but it's not operational as a school. It's more of a community center and resource center now. But it was a Routier school that I went to. So when I was in grade one, I didn't really know who Routier was. So it was only later on. I was like, oh, I went to the school named after the guy.
Never knew that.
Yep. Adolphe Basile Routier. As intended, the first performance of O Canada took place on June 24th, 1880, at a banquet held at the Pavillon des Patineurs, the Pavilion of Skaters, in the city of Quebec. The playing of O Canada for the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and York, later King George V and Queen Mary, when they toured Canada in 1901, helped to introduce the song to English-speaking Canada. As the song became increasingly popular in English Canada, many English adaptations of its original French lyrics were created and sung across Canada. Arguably, the most popular version was written in 1908 by Robert Stanley Weir, later published in an official form for the Diamond Jubilee of Confederation in 1927. It gradually became the most widely accepted and performed version of the song in English-speaking Canada. Weir's lyrics, having undergone a few minor modifications from the original form, became the official English version of Canada's national anthem with the passing of the National Anthem Act in 1980. The official French version of the anthem featured the original French lyrics, which have remained unchanged since 1880. On January 31st, 2018, legislation was enacted to change the English lyrics to ensure gender parity. The verse, True Patriot Love in All Thy Sons Command, was changed to True Patriot Love in All of Us Command. No change was required to the French version.
Well, don't forget the original lyric was Thou dost in us command.
Yes.
The In All Thy Sons Command was changed during World War I to honor the boys who were off to war, the sons of Canadians. That's why it was changed. And then people said, why did you change it? I'm going to sing the original lyric. Well, the original lyric is Thou dost in us command. So they just changed it back to more closely resemble the original lyrics.
There you go. Also, as we reported on the show, I believe it was an all-star game. I think it was NBA.
Yes,
Julie Black
Yeah.
sang the national anthem, switching our home and native land to our home on native land. And I was actually thinking about that yesterday.
I've been singing it that way for about a decade, if not longer.
But I was thinking about it yesterday. Considering that, yes, the Indigenous people were here first, number one, but two, that not everybody who is a Canadian citizen was actually born here. It's kind of a double reason to want to switch it to our home on native land. Not only is it true, but then it would actually be, ironically enough, more inclusive because it would recognize officially people who Canada is their chosen land, but not necessarily their native land.
Well, I changed that lyric to our home on native land, and I also changed another lyric from to let's keep our land glorious and free.
Yes.
Because why would a deity choose us over anyone else?
Yes, indeed.
Whether you believe or not, it's just why would they choose us over anyone else?
And even if one would, how would we know that they chose us?
Well, that's
and why would we assume? Yeah. Why would we be so arrogant to assume they chose us if there was one?
Exactly. That's why I say let's keep our land glorious and free. I know that pisses off a few people, but I really don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Now, as we mentioned in the beginning of the show, of course, not everybody celebrates, and I've already seen online people get into some bun fights. One of the wonderful things about Canada is that we are free to observe or not, to celebrate or not, and we can all coexist doing it. So those of us who do celebrate and observe, there's nothing wrong with us if we would choose to celebrate a land that we love and that has given a lot to us. And for those of us who feel that the nation doesn't represent them or hasn't served them or hasn't done right by them, and do not wish to market the occasion in the sense of celebration. They want to mark the occasion in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
You're free to do that.
Yes.
Right. And you're not a bad person for not wanting to celebrate today.
Yeah.
And you're not a bad person for wanting to celebrate today.
Exactly.
We all have our reasons. It's individual to all of us.
Well, that's the beauty of our country. We're allowed to have our own individual thoughts and opinions.
Exactly. And hopefully for those of us who are observing, we do take a moment to acknowledge that our past has been far from perfect, that our present is far from perfect, and that we still have a lot to do and that we commit to it. And for those of us who are not celebrating, I do hope that one day things change enough here that you would be willing to join us in our celebrations, because there's always a spot at the table for you as far as I'm concerned, and you're always welcome. But you decide whether or not you get to come or you want to come. We don't tell you you must.
No, not at all.
Everything in their own time.
Yeah, you're free to choose as you wish.
Yeah.
And it's, as you know, it's my favorite day of the year because for me, I've always felt it was the most inclusive holiday of the year because it's not tied to a religion of any type.
Right.
Or a culture. Well, maybe, but I've never seen it that way. Then again, I do sit from a place of privilege, but I think it's a day when and of course, living in Canada's capital for the last 40 odd years, you get to see people who love this country dearly and are thankful and grateful to be here. And you get to see people who have come to this country recently and celebrate it joyfully and gleefully because they've come here for a better life and have almost always found one. Not necessarily always the case, but almost always have found one. And today's just a great day to celebrate being Canadian. And again, we understand not everybody feels the same way. My beloved does not feel the same way about Canada Day that I do, and that's okay.
Yeah. That's right. We just need to make space for each other and avoid the word should.
Yes.
Maybe like this. And just, I'm celebrating. I'm not. I respect that. And there's no reason we can't all be friends. There's no reason we can't all be friends though we don't feel the same way about things. So long as we're decent to each other, that's what should matter. And, being right neighborly is a Canadian thing. So hopefully there'll be a little extra of that today when you're in the presence of or having an exchange with someone who might not share your point of view. There you go. All right. News.
Do we want to do that today?
Well, do we not?
I know. Of course we do.
Okay.
Where do you want to begin?
I'm okay with not, but okay. Well, let's start with some stuff. We've been covering the whole Tommy Robinson Goldie Gamari thing, and there have been developments.
Yes, Goldie is without a seat. She has been booted from caucus.
Well, not without a seat.
Well, you're right. Sorry. She's been booted from caucus.
Yes, she has been booted from caucus. Doug Ford apparently threw her out the day after, or the same day that it seems that her story about her taking Tommy Robinson's call because I'm guessing she considered him some type of noted international expert in all matters related to the IGRC when his only qualifications is that he seems to hate Muslims.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Now, I don't know if she is Muslim herself.
I don't know if she's Muslim.
She's Iranian Canadian, so she's Persian. So,
but possible. She has, like I said, she has received a few slaps on the wrist from the National Coalition of Canadian Muslims and other national Muslim groups. More than once for some of her comments. And, again, the whole context of the Tommy Robinson thing was that very Islamophobic video truck that was sponsored or purchased by the Rebel.
Well, they own the truck.
They own the truck, who was in the streets, and that Tommy allegedly sponsored for these messages, I'm guessing. And Yeah. She, one of the complaint about her is that if you're looking at her Twitter feed, she seemed to be representing in Queen's Park more for the people of Iran than for the people of Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's a judgment that's unanimous, I'm not sure if I necessarily share it. I'm not that familiar, but that has been a common complaint that has been surfacing a lot. But it all stemmed here from the fact that she said that the purpose of their meeting was to meet with to talk about the IGRC, and then he basically put something out saying, well, he wanted to date her. That caused, according to Global, posted June 28th, Ontario Premier Doug Ford has removed a backbench MPP from his Progressive Conservative Party caucus after she met with prominent far-right figure from the United Kingdom, a movie called one of a series of, quote, repeated incidents. So, actually, let me finish this and then we'll get into it. On Friday morning, Ford's office announced Goldie Gamari had been removed from caucus, quote, effective immediately, sending the Carleton MPP to sit as an independent. This decision follows repeated instances of serious lapses in judgment and a failure to collaborate constructively with caucus leadership, and as a team member, the statement said, while this decision did not come easily, it has become clear that MPP Gamari can no longer continue in her role within our caucus. In a brief statement posted to social media after her removal, Gamari said, quote, when one door closes, another one opens, and flashed a peace sign emoji. Not sure if that means that somewhere behind the scenes she's being courted by the Polyev conservatives to run federally.
Probably.
We'll see. Gamari drew the ire of the Premier this week after choosing to meet with Tommy Robinson, a prominent far-right figure from the United Kingdom. Robinson founded the English Defence League, a group that has regularly been described by researchers and advocates as Islamophobic and far-right. The meeting, which she shared a screenshot of on her social media, was met with fierce backlash from the National Council of Canadian Muslims, who called for Ford to remove her from caucus on Wednesday over the meeting. The Ontario NDP also said in a social media post that Robinson was, quote, a far-right anti-Islam activist, and questioned why Gamari had chosen to speak to him. Asked Wednesday about the meeting, Gamari said she was, quote, not aware of Robinson's history when she agreed to meet with him online. She said she opted to speak to the far-right figure as an Iranian-Canadian immigrant concerned about the country's regime. Quote, he wanted to discuss the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which was recently listed as a terrorist entity in Canada, she told Global News on Wednesday. Quote, we discussed the RGRC, its impact in Canada, and the 6-year effort of the Iranian-Canadian diaspora to put the RGRC on the Canadian terror list. Gamari said she condemned all forms of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. On Monday, Robinson was arrested in Calgary, where he was taking part in a controversial speaking engagement. A video he posted to his social media said he was arrested over an outstanding immigration warrant. In a separate social media post on Tuesday, Gamari questioned why Robinson had been arrested while someone she alleged was a supporter of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was not. Can someone explain this double standard? I'm confused, she wrote. The I'm confused part was particularly true. I'm just saying. Robinson has been criminally convicted several times in the United Kingdom, including for contempt of court and for assault. Initially, on Wednesday evening, Ford simply said he was, quote, disappointed with Gamari's decision to meet Robinson, someone, quote, whose behavior and beliefs are at odds with our government. Now, Ford, of course, didn't say how or why those behaviors were at odds with his government. On Friday, the disappointment went further, and she was removed from the governing party caucus. Of course, the article doesn't mention why the disappointment went further. Mentions nothing about the fact that she was contradicted. Mentions nothing about Tommy Robinson saying he wanted to, quote-unquote, date.
Yeah.
A.k.a. bang her.
Well, we assume.
The dude was in country for less than 48 hours, I think, and was already coked up and drunken at a massage parlor. To say he was a little hard up? Just saying. Her subsequent statement claiming she wasn't aware of Mr. Robinson's history prior to the meeting speaks volumes about her judgment and honesty, Yelich wrote. Oh, yes, Ivana Yelich. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
The National Council for Canadian Muslims says Friday it was glad Gamari had been removed from caucus. Now, this move from Doug Ford was followed by comments by a lot of people whose views I respect, actually, saying, oh, gee, you got to give it to Doug Ford. He keeps a tight lid on his caucus. Because, I mean, he has ejected people before. And this sort of has shades of Sarah Jama and the NDP, where she's sort of like freelancing without consulting her caucus in ways that are not in the best interest of her caucus. And Doug Ford had the whole parliament censure her, the whole legislature censure her. Of course, it was probably mostly conservatives because they have a majority, so they can censure someone all on their own. I note that there's no censure move for Golti Gamari. So yeah. And now, of course, this move by Doug Ford, even though it went public and she is removed from caucus, unlike the move from Pierre Poilievre, where he still hasn't done anything about his 3 rogue MPs who met with Christine Anderson. And apparently no journalist seems to be drawing the parallel and asking the question about this. Yeah. But so unlike Pierre Poilievre, he finally did boot her from caucus. Still like Pierre Poilievre, there is no statement on the party party website I didn't check, sorry, but on the party Twitter feed and Doug Ford's Twitter feed, nor is the news of her ejection from caucus anywhere on party letterhead that I've been able to see. So once again, they're doing it in such a way that they hope that the people who like Tommy Robinson don't notice.
Stealth. Everything is stealth. Smoke and mirrors. Now
everybody's turning around and saying, yeah, we need to give Ford, wow, look at Ford. Doug Ford does not get a cookie. Doug Ford's first instinct was, if you take down the tweet of you having a video conference with Tommy Robinson, then it will all go away. Yeah.
Well,
we will not advertise it. We will not make big noise. We will not draw attention to it. And that will be good enough. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. But it's still not on party hill letterhead, still not on the Twitter feed.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming she's been removed
official. It's officially unofficial.
Yes. And I'm assuming that she's been removed as the chair of the Standing Committee on Justice. I would hope. But it would seem that, and I have not been able to confirm this independently, but word on the tweet, is that she was named to that position in 2023, but her license was suspended in 2021, which would have meant that Doug Ford knew that she was a lawyer with a suspended license before he named her his, or maybe the committee elects its own chair, I don't know, but before she was made the chair on the Standing Committee of Justice, which whether if Doug Ford appointed her there himself, or she happened to just be on the committee somehow, or assigned to the committee and was elected chair by her fellow committee mates, did not provoke Doug Ford to say, why do you have someone who can't respect the professional rules of her own organization, who has had her license to law suspended as the chair of the Standing Committee on Justice? Is this some type of irony here that I'm missing the joke on? Or, because I can foresee a future when this is going to blow up in our face. Somebody who already doesn't have enough respect for the rules to keep her license for the thing that she does to earn her living.
Yeah.
That's someone that you probably should not be given responsibility to. I'm just saying, especially if you know about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you think of the hierarchy of needs, housing, whatnot like this, you need a job. If you can't do the minimum to maintain your license to keep your job, again, I don't.
You may be welcome.
Maybe there's something else. But it seems to me that that's a bit of a hot mess alert.
Well, one would assume.
Anyway, so she's no longer in cabinet. It seems that the government is trying to soft pedal that. It seems that even though he doesn't deserve any, he's getting cookies because, again, this type of thing happens. This is so egregious The ban was on Canadian soil. As a convicted felon, should not have been here. Because not only did she meet with him, but she publicly put her name and her
Yeah.
MPP status to a tweet being outraged that he was arrested. And then when of the 2 tweets that she had about him, the one she removed was the one having evidence of her having a video conference, but she didn't think that it was a good idea to also eliminate the one where she complained about him being arrested because he literally was in the country illegally.
Mm-hmm.
So why this guy and why not that guy? It's like, no, why not both guys? If the other guy did what you allege he did, for which you've provided no proof, and it could just be a random picture of some person that you just attribute to the IRGC, because she basically said the man on the other picture was a member of the IRGC. If he's not, he's Canadian. He's got a defamation suit.
Mm-hmm.
So, not great there. So, Doug Ford's first instinct, because his first instincts are always wrong.
Well, yeah.
Was to try to make it go away and keep her in her position. He needed to be asked more than once on something that was fairly obvious and open and shut. This one was a layup.
He's not the smartest bulb on the Christmas tree.
Yeah. So, Doug Ford does not get a cookie. But it seems he did it fast enough to fool enough people to say, hey, look at him. He takes action swiftly. Mm-hmm. This is the type of thing that you come out of hiding for. If you're a premier and you go to a mic and you say that you've done this.
He was too busy on his Sea-Doo, which is called the phone that he's on 24/7.
Yes. I am less than impressed with this move. Let's just put it that way.
Can we pivot to
yes,
Daniel Smith and WestJet?
Oh, I didn't know that there was a Daniel Smith angle to WestJet. Okay, but let's go to the WestJet.
I'll read you her tweet. With tens of thousands of Albertans and their fellow Canadians stranded all across the world, the WestJet mechanics strike must end. The Labour Board's decision to allow the strike to continue during binding arbitration is a clear contravention of all norms, practices, and precedent when it comes to good faith labour bargaining. Alberta's government is calling on the federal government to make the expectation clear that work must continue throughout binding arbitration. Wait a minute. The government has too much overreach. Now we want you to overreach.
All right. One, I'm not familiar enough with labor law to know whether or not once binding arbitration is ordered, that prevents you from being able to go into a strike.
I don't know.
I don't think it is.
No, okay. Because if it was, we'd have the federal government sending them back to work if that was the case.
Yes. I would assume that it's not, but I don't know. There could be that's not my expertise in the matter of law. I would assume that because it was ordered, but it had not yet started or whatnot. I'm not sure if both parties agreed to it at that time as well. Or if it was just suggested. But yes, it was their last chance to go on strike, given if they were going to get involved in a arbitration process. So they did. But here's the interesting thing. WestJet mechanics had gone on strike, which left some airline passengers grounded. They definitely picked the most strategic time to do it.
Well,
prior to Canada Day long weekend. This
Stampede starts next Friday.
Exactly. But this was a second strike because there was a surprise strike by unionized workers on Friday, a day after the federal government had ordered the binding arbitration. So the WestJet mechanics joined them afterwards. And WestJet said that on Saturday, it was outraged by the aircraft's engineers' surprise strike. And the president of the company came out, in fact, to say so. It resulted in It resulted in 235 flights being canceled across the country, affecting about 33,000 passengers that day alone. The airline said that a strike should be off limits, given that Ottawa imposed binding arbitration the union stands firm, saying that the strike is legal. Air passenger rights expert Gabor Lukas said that if you're a passenger, this is some news you can use, you could ask for a refund, but he doesn't recommend it if you still do want to fly.
Mhm.
If you still do want to fly, it's important that you insist on getting a rebooking and that you get a good app to record your phone conversation with WestJet.
Well, and they are, by law, they have to get you where you want to go if you demand a rebook, which means they might have to book you onto another aircraft at their cost.
Yes. Now, the WestJet's president, Diedrich Penn, said specifically, the stress, the devastation this is causing is unnecessary and hurts us. All of us were outraged, basically. And then he also said about the canceled flights, whatnot, said that it's devastating if no solution is coming today. We will be canceling another 150 flights today, which was June 29th. WestJet said that it's waiting for word from the federal government on what they'll do and hope that an answer would come later that day on the 29th. Well, this morning I woke up to the news that the WestJet strike is over.
Oh,
The airline and its mechanics union reached an agreement late last night, so all of Daniel Smith's posing and preening to try to blame the federal government was all for naught. Once again, WestJet says that there could be more disruptions in the coming week because of the labor dispute. The mechanics are back to work immediately. The union says the agreement provides substantial improvements over members' terms of employment and terms from the first tentative agreement that was rejected. WestJet says considering the impact the strike had on customers and the standstill the two parties were at, despite an order for binding arbitration, both parties worked together to agree on a deal. The strike was short but had a nationwide effect of tens of thousands of passengers being stranded. More than 800 flights were affected by the time the deal was reached. So it went up pretty quickly because it was 235 one day and another 150 that day, and so it got up to 800. WestJet said that staff are now returning to work. The airline says getting back to normal service will take some time, and customers should be ready to face more travel disruptions over the next week. And while all this was going on, it seemed that Labor Minister Seamus O'Regan seemed to be somewhat taken aback by the binding arbitration call, from what I can tell. But I'd have to look into that more. But it seems that he was under the impression that directives that he had given or something that he had said was misinterpreted somewhere along the way. But I do not know much more detail than that with regard to that aspect. But they are back at work. So that was a quick one. And I'm guessing that the union, by picking its moment that strategically, kind of convinced the WestJet management brass to come to the table and negotiate. Now, I don't know how good that was going. I could tell that based on the president saying how far apart that they were on a deal, that it wasn't yielding results. However, again, word on the tweet, have not been able to confirm this independently myself, is that the brass at WestJet wasn't being particularly proactive in speaking with
that doesn't surprise
the members
me the least bit.
at the moment.
They if they could get rid of the union altogether, they would. I guarantee it.
So
they could pay you as little as possible. Something I'm reading about, and it enrages me because, yes, this is the problem. This is some people are saying WestJet mechanics make twice what the average Canadian does. Indeed, and they can't buy a house either. Maybe the problem is Canadians are all underpaid, and maybe WestJet mechanics are showing you all the way to fix that. Stop licking billionaire boots.
Yeah, sounds like you all need to join a union.
Well, so I was thinking about this last night, and something that troubles me about it is the way they attacked the union, the way WestJet management attacked the union, made me think that they would like to get rid of the union altogether and pay their people next to nothing so that they can pad their dividend checks each quarter and return a larger investment to their shareholders. If they could have it done for free, their employees not get paid, they would.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You remember during JB's talk about a UBI, how southern states said they would all go out of business if slavery was abolished. because free labor is what enabled them to create the country. Well, the country was built on slavery for sure.
Yes.
There's no question about it. But the funny thing is they created a new type of a new type of slavery, and that's wage slavery, because it's actually less expensive for a company to pay a minimum wage. And in the United States of America, it hasn't changed in 15 years or 16 years. It's $7.63 an hour. It's less expensive for them to pay you minimum wage than it would be to have you as a slave. Well,
Yeah, I
if
guess
you
so,
were a
because you don't have to
slave,
pay for someone's upkeep.
food, clothing, shelter. That's always going to cost you more than $7.63 an hour at 35 hours a week, because they don't want to give you 40, because then you're full time. They figured out a way to enact a new type of slavery, and it's wage slavery, by keeping the wages as low as possible, lobbying Congress to keep them low. Now, thankfully, in Ontario, we've had a raise to the minimum wage, but it's still not nearly enough. And people seem to forget that the minimum wage meant to be the minimum amount you need to have a life to live upon. It was the minimum living wage. Well, that's not the case anymore, because you can't live on it. You can't. And companies have worked around having full-time employees by having full-time, part-time. You get 20, 30 hours a week, which means you need a second job to make ends meet, or sometimes a third job. Or you join the gig economy and drive for a specific company whose name begins with U and ends with Burr, as an example. And the gig economy is another way to get around actually paying you anything, because you're not an employee, you're seen as a contractor, which means you get zero benefits. And all you get is a stipend for the rides that you provide. Uber doesn't pay you.
Right.
The customer pays you.
Right.
So this gig economy, this keep the minimum wage down, it's all bullshit. It's all about how the wealthy stay wealthy and powerful and keep us under their boot heels. So when WestJet brass comes out and says inflammatory things about how the union is being reckless, I'm like, go to hell. They have the right, the legal protected right, to form a union and demand good wages for the work that they do. And I myself would like to see that the people who are paid to keep the aircraft functioning and flying safely are paid a good wage.
Yeah.
So, know.
Yeah. The people that are expect us to save us if things go crack or boom.
Yeah.
I want them to be paid well.
I want them to be professionals. I want them to be, what's the magic word? Experts.
Wash your mouth out with soap.
I want experts to take care of the aircraft I'm going to fly.
You can't have that.
I know. According to Pierre Poilievre, it should be common people that do it, or electricians that capture lightning from the sky.
While riding planes. On top of them.
Yes. Just getting those lightning bolts and throwing them in my satchel. We've all seen Thor, right?
Doody doody doo doom doom. Productive day.
Productive day. Look at all this electricity I've gathered. Let's sell it.
Oh my God. Oh jeez.
Speaking of electricity and selling, did you know that originally Tesla, when he was building at Wardenclyffe, he built a massive Tesla coil, and the idea was to distribute electricity the world over for free. He was shut down very quickly by J.P. Morgan when Morgan discovered, wait a minute, I'm not making any money on this. Shut it down. Electricity free for everyone on Earth, courtesy of Nikola Tesla. He figured out a way to do it. They shut it down and destroyed all of his documentation regarding it.
Jeez.
Why?
Wow.
Why? Because I'm already one of the richest men on Earth, but I need to make more money. Greed will kill us all.
Indeed. We have some birthdays to mark. Yes. Apparently, Mademoiselle Fox's mama, Mama Fox, it's her birthday today. So happy birthday to you. And Kid Jen, it is your birthday as well. And you are here in the chat. So breaking out my best Marilyn. Happy birthday to you. There you go. I love Canada Day birthdays. They're great. And my friend Jacques, by the way, happy birthday to you. I know he's probably not watching, but I'll just put it out there. It's never a bad idea to put some birthday wishes out into the universe. All right. Other things going on. Those are some of the bigger stories we were following. If you happen to be living in Calgary, Mayor Jody Gondek said that they're getting closer to resolving the water system crisis, and it could be resolved by sometime next week. I have to say that after a terrible start, the city's communications have improved immensely. Now, they'll probably never live down the first impression, but they did clean it up. They really did clean it up. And you'll see it here in the statement. Very clear, very concise, and no ambiguity here. The mayor said, there are 4 steps that we need to take before a safe water supply can be restored from the Bear's Paw treatment plant. The pipe needs to be filled, then flushed, then water quality needs to be tested, and then we begin to stabilize the network. Great news on step 1. Filling of the pipe was completed at 6 p.m. yesterday. So I'm guessing that yesterday, in that case for us, is the day before yesterday. Now she says that once the flushing of the pipe is completed, like I said, the Alberta Health Services will be testing the water to see if it meets quality standards, and then stabilization will begin. But Gondek says that Calgarians will need to continue to conserve water for the next few days. So it seems that Calgarians are doing what needs to be done and are all pulling together to make sure this happens. So let's hope that the fix does come about. And if it does, it would have come about in very, very, very fast time for these types of projects for municipalities. So it seems that it really was an all hands on deck effort. And it looks like they're on the way to making it happen. Like I said, tech willing, this case. So a fumble off the start, but it seems to be a very professional, competent job since then. So you got to give props where they are deserved here on that. Let's see, what else do we have for you today?
I have something I think you'll enjoy in case if you didn't see this. So let me just blow the tweet up and I'll put it on the screen. This is from Derek Guy, or Derek Guy. I don't know if it's Guy or Guy, at Dye Workwear. Derek is a menswear writer, editor at creator of RL Goes Hard, bylines at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Financial Times, Esquire, and Mr. Porter. And he's the editor at, hang on, I got to look this up. Put This On, sorry. You're going to appreciate this.
Okay.
This is good. So this is Derek. I don't know if it's Guy or Guy. If anybody knows, please correct me. I'm not super familiar with his work, but he says, unconventional pairings like a T-shirt with a tailored jacket can look great if the clothes are cut beautifully.
Oh, yes.
But if the clothes are not cut well, often too tight, they just make the outfit look worse.
Yes. Yes.
He's been on a tear lately as to the regarding the makeover of Pierre Poilievre. And he has not been kind.
No. And he has a cool one out about how people dress their dogs versus how people dress themselves. And the dogs are all more stylish. Way more stylish. Well, and he actually points out like but he's been doing that. He does a whole bunch of political commentary using fashion as his way in.
Oh, yes.
And the comments, it blows my mind because all the things that he says about fashion are absolutely true. And he finds a way to link them.
Well, he's talking here because it's a left photo, right photo,
right.
And left photo, the right photo is Pierre Poilievre in a not exactly tailored looking jacket. And here it says the first photo is of Vittorio Cellino, a bespoke tailor who trained under the famous Florentine tailor Antonio Leverano. Notice the extended shoulder line, longer jacket, and higher rise trousers. When clothes are cut so beautifully, styling them in very casual ways can make you look more comfortable in your clothes. Like, I have these beautiful clothes, but they are not a big deal to me. In my opinion, the second outfit, that of Pierre Poilievre, makes you look uncomfortable in tailored clothing. First, the jacket is too small. The man likely realizes this and feels uncomfortable, dressed up, in quotes. So he wears it with a T-shirt and some jeans. To me, the outfit says you are uncomfortable in tailoring. Try too hard to look trendy and likely shop at expensive trendy stores that overcharge for clothes. It doesn't look cool, natural, or elegant. It's just downstream of early 2000 trends that already feel outdated. Scathing.
Ouch. Ouch. I love it. I love it. I love it. Little fashion commentary.
Yeah, I like
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, because there's something about when someone tries too hard,
it.
right? There's just something about when someone tries too hard, and yeah,
There's a great take
I have no
here
problem with it.
from @SailorLass. This is a great take on this. I know it's petty, but any opportunity to criticize the second guy's fashion style is welcome. Given, as a Canadian taxpayer, I contributed to his upkeep. I think that's great.
That is really good. Now, I'll send another one to you, Mr. Grizzly, here to put up, because it sort of goes, it's connected, because the conservatives, unfortunately, and it's been the case for a good long while, have no sense of humor. And whenever they joke, it's rarely funny because the jokes are punching down. And they just can't seem to be happy about stuff. So, like, interest rates go down, they get mad. Inflation goes down, they get mad. Because, well, their narrative is that Canada's failing, and anything that shows that Canada is not well. And they seem to have some problems with people being happy. So, even though it's Canada Day, let's take a moment for our national hour of dour. As the party that fun forgot has dark clouds hanging over the nation, thoughts about someone having the ability to feel and express joy among their fellow citizens.
Yeah, let me just blow this up a bit here. Okay. This is...
Seeing people being happy seems to make them miserable.
Certainly looks like it. This is from Chris Warkentin. Now, who is this?
Yes, who's an MP.
Member of Parliament for Grand Prairie, Mackenzie. Liberal caucus, we have some serious questions about your leadership. Trudeau, the man is dancing, having a good time enjoying life in Markham, Ontario.
At a big barbecue somehow.
Instead of dancing, what about salsa?
Yeah, and there's always got to be one at every party, right?
Yeah.
Instead of dancing, what about... It's like, instead of you coming here and trying to make this moment about you, how about zipping it and letting the moment happen? Just saying. Speaking of, how about zipping it and letting the moment happen? I'm going to go onto some unpopular territory.
Okay.
But people know how I feel about this. The Pride Parade took place in Toronto yesterday. It's the largest one in Canada. Often it's the largest one in North America in terms of attendance, not the size of the parade. The size of the parade, that will always go pretty much to New York City. But in terms of attendance. Now, it seems that for the second time in a decade, the parade was disrupted. Now, the last time it happened, it was the Black Lives Matter movement that decided they were going to try to hijack the parade to make it about their thing on that day, even though it was the day that the Prime Minister of Canada, for the first time ever, well, technically that's not true. I've heard that Joe Clark did it way back when, participated in the Pride Parade. But it's been billed as the Prime Minister of Canada, the first time the Prime Minister of Canada officially marched in a Pride Parade. And it was also the year of the shooting at the Pulse nightclub in Florida. So it was very celebratory for us because we were being recognized for the first time officially. So we were being told, and it was also a day of mourning because, within the gay community, we believe that none of us are free until all of us are free. And when stuff like the Pulse nightclub shooting happens, which was the largest mass murder shooting of that type. And the people from Black Lives Matter came along and hijacked. They were made marshals of the parade by the Pride Committee, and then used their position there to sort of hijack the parade. And I believe a smoke bomb had been released and a whole bunch of stuff. But the parade did get to go on. This time, the parade was intercepted in some way or interfered with in some way as a group of protesters against Israel's war in Gaza made their way into the procession. Pride organizers canceled the rest of the parade, but added that they respect the right to protest, because the parade itself was born in protest over police raids over several bathhouses in 1981. My position is the same here. Now, I know that people are turning around and they're saying genocide is going on, which makes me taking this position much more controversial. Because, well, don't you care the fact that genocide is going on?
Of course we do.
I care that genocide is going on anywhere that it's going on, right? We should not be treating people like that, period. But we get one day a year. This movement has gotten every single day since October 7th. And there's never a day, if you believe that genocide is going on, there's never a day to stop protesting against genocide. And it's not as if the rainbow community is against this. It's not like we're against protest. It's not like there isn't a segment of the gay community that isn't very militant in favor of Palestinian statehood. We know what it's like to be oppressed. So, right? Again, not causes, not nobility of cause, but tactics. Not sure that that's the best way to make allies. When someone has just one day a year, that's theirs, and you can't even let them have that, it gets backs up. Especially if it's a group that has made room for you or that has traditionally shown that they were willing to support you. Now, also, I have no idea if there's a link between this, but it's not as if over the past year and a half or so that there hasn't been a lot of unpleasant interaction between members of that community and members of ours. We had trans protests at schools. We've seen young children indoctrinated by their parents to stomp on our flag or spit on it. We have, and the irony is that the anti-gay pride, anti-rainbow, triggered by rainbows thing was nowhere near as strong this year as it was last year.
No, thankfully.
But Muslim Canadians and Rainbow Canadians are groups that people who want neither of us to have our freedoms often try to pit one against another. I'm sure that there will be some people within the rainbow community, I'm not one of them in this case, but there will be some people making comments and wondering why it is, again, people associated with a certain religion are once again making us targets. Because we recently had National Indigenous Peoples Day, and I don't remember the pro-Palestinian groups disrupting those activities. We had St. Patrick's Day, and I don't remember them disrupting those activities.
No. They were probably out getting liquored. Just saying.
Yes. I'm guessing that the non-Muslim people among that
yes,
were probably out getting liquored on St. Patrick's Day. But on our day, we were. listen, if you want to bring attention to your cause, as Black Lives Matter did, you did it. Congratulations. Your event was successful.
Mm.
If it was about making friends for the long term, I'm not sure you made new friends. Those you already had probably supported you. I mean, the Pride Committee canceled the rest of the parade. So either it was so disruptive that it couldn't go on, or everybody turned around and said, yeah, you know what, you're right. But our community once in Toronto had, or I think actually did have, a Pride parade canceled 1 year before it even started because of the Israel-Palestine issue, way before this latest series of really tragic and unfortunate and devastating and painful events, horrific events happened. So again, this is not new to us, our community. The union movement, for example, which is very pro to us LGBTQ+, also happens to be very pro Palestine liberation. There is that famous word that seems to bother a lot of people, a lot of intersectionality between our communities to begin with. So I'm not sure why it is we should be making strategic and tactical moves to deny each other our days when we have them instead of working together. Because I'm sure that they're given the popularity of this issue with certain segments of the gay rainbow community, typically the more militant ones, but still, that there would have been no problem with a group organizing and marching in the parade, as in, Rainbow Community for Palestine, for example, and making their protest known as part of the parade. Not sure why the parade needed to be stopped. I know that it's a big media event that grabs a lot of attention. Therefore, if you want to get on the news, it's a good one to go after. But I just, like I said, maybe it's selfish of me, given the size of the devastation that is going on over there. Yes, but it would just seems to me that if you want to have an event for one day or be noticed on one day, that's exactly what you do. If you want to build a long-lasting allyship with the group so that you multiply the voices calling for the thing that you need, and that you have more people able to take over to run a leg of the relay when you get tired for a bit, that you don't deny them the one day of the year that they get together among their... Now, of course, I'm saying this from a perspective of being in Canada.
Yes, where you are protected and safe. And
yes. If I was in another country, let's say, like if I was in Israel right now, maybe I might, and I was Jewish, I might not hold the same view. Right? Or, well, if I was gay and if I was in Palestine, my views on my neighborhood accepting my community and my expectations would probably be way more tempered. So I probably wouldn't hold that view at all. I wouldn't have the luxury of it. Let's be honest. So yeah, it's from what I can tell, like I said, I don't know whether or not the Pride Committee in Toronto decided to suspend the rest of the parade for actual security reasons because there were so many and the protest was getting out of hand, or just out of solidarity, because with our community it could be either one. And I'll try to take a look while Mr. Grizzly's talking later on to see if I can find more details than that. But like I said, this type of thing, it makes me uncomfortable. And you know what? Maybe that was the point.
I believe it was, actually.
So then again,
it's to make you feel uncomfortable, to make you think.
Yes, exactly. And so like I said, I'm of mixed emotions
Mhm.
because I see the point. It's just, I just wish that people would stop denying us our day to be able to make their points.
Yeah. Just give me a second. I
So-
got to jump out for a sec to fix something. I'll be right back.
All right. So yeah, there you go. Probably not the most popular position I've ever taken here on the show. And it's not because I don't want the issue resolved. I definitely do want the issue resolved. I don't want to see any people being hurt in any way, shape, or form. So, but just like I guess my opening statement that, you know, whether you celebrate or not when it comes to Canada Day, you know, let those who want to celebrate, celebrate. Let those who don't, not. I wish it could have applied here too.
Well, I like the comment from Carol. I can't show it on the screen. I've lost all access to do
Oh,
the comments.
okay.
So I'm checking this out on a different feed. But it says, there's lots of fatigue over the protests. This was their way of keeping it in the news. It didn't make it right, though.
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was their way of keeping it in the news. Doesn't make it right, though.
Yeah.
I understand, you know, that why they did it. You know, there's a big spotlight. There are millions of people watching both online, in person, and I believe it's televised on City TV. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of eyeballs on it, and they know they'll make the national news. They'll know they make the international news to a degree. So it was a strategic move. I understand why they did it. And I don't disagree with the message. I think just sometimes you deliver the message differently. Maybe that was the wrong place and time to do it. And that's my take. Do I disagree with what they're saying? No, I just think they saw an opportunity, took it, and I didn't think it was the right thing to do. But that's me. I'm not protesting what they're protesting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I'm very much against genocide in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing
Kind
to
of a
joke
no-brainer.
about, right? But I just think it was, I think it's probably turned a lot of people off, is my take. And I'm sure they knew that going in. I'm sure it was, you know, calculated. We're gonna lose people when we do this, but we're gonna get, you know, on the news. But here's the thing that everybody seems to fail to realize that's protesting the war in Gaza is that all the protesting you do amounts to zero. Zero. It amounts to nothing because you do understand these are, you know, a country attacking what should be seen as a state, two states, in another part of the world where we have no political sway over any of them, either party. We have no political power, no political sway. We can't just say, stop doing that and think they'll listen. They won't. Netanyahu is going to do whatever the hell he wants, as proven by what he's done.
Yeah.
The only person on earth who could effectively bring an end to this is the President of the United States, because they have the largest, most powerful military the world has ever seen. They could bring an end to this, but we can't. And protesting in the streets of Toronto or Ottawa or Calgary or Montreal or whatever community you reside in is not going to change a damn thing. Go to a protest if you want to let people know your thoughts, or maybe just put them out online on social media to say you're against it. But protesting in the streets, trying to get yourself on TV to let people know we're against this. Yeah, we're against it too. But it's not going to change a damn thing until political powers that have the ability to sway it and put an end to it do something. Nothing is going to change. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. It's true. All the protesting in the world isn't going to change a damn thing. You also have to remember, whether people realize this or not, that there are powerful lobbyists in Congress who sway Congress people to do their bidding. And some of those powerful lobbyists work for companies that manufacture the arms that are provided to both combatants, by the way. They're profiting off of this. Every time a bullet gets fired, that's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. If you've seen the film Lord of War, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Somebody somewhere is getting rich off of this. They don't want it to end.
Good point. Good point. Reading here in from the Toronto Star here. Thousands of people danced and sang and celebrated at Toronto's Pride Parade on Sunday until the procession was suddenly stopped mid-route and then cancelled by a protest. About 30 demonstrators, calling themselves the Coalition Against Pinkwashing, held banners and chanted on Yonge Street, just south of Wellesley Street, 3.5 hours after the parade's 2 p.m. start. Floats and marchers making their way south toward the parade's finish at Nathan Phillips Square were stranded behind the protesters who chanted Free Palestine and Pride is a protest. Yes, but Pride is a protest for rainbow rights.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Pride is a protest, so I'm going to bring any old issue to it and protest.
Yeah.
And given that
Protest
the
for
demonstrators call themselves Coalition Against Pinkwashing, so clearly we were specifically targeted here. Close against pinkwashing. Pinkwashing what, though? I'm having a feeling, just by the taste of that name, that their primary concern is not Palestine.
You think?
And I would be very surprised if there were a lot of Muslim people among those 30.
Yeah.
And 45 minutes after the protests began, Pride Toronto announced the remainder of the parade, billed as Canada's largest, was cancelled. We made the decision to cancel the remainder of the Pride Parade out of our commitment to ensuring public safety, Pride Toronto spokesperson Annalise said in a statement. While we deeply respect and uphold everyone's right to peacefully protest, our foremost priority is the well-being of all participants and spectators. So even if we consider that our Pride Parade, because a lot of people say that Pride isn't protest anymore, but considering that the number of people that get upset about like issues like public nudity and oh my god, here are the rainbows again, and well, why do they get a full month and veterans only get and whatever, right? It's like people seem to fail to understand that given how certain people feel about us, just waking up every day, breathing and daring to be happy and live a fulfilled and full life that's rewarding is an act of rebellion. Hosting the parade, where we're on a float, maybe in a bathing suit and a water pistol, gyrating to the latest beats. Yeah, it looks like fun, why not? But it actually is a protest.
Yes.
There are a whole bunch of people that would really, really wish we would not exist.
Well,
and we are being very, 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 very visible.
I said to a colleague a few years ago, I said, I would like to come a day when Pride is no longer needed or required.
Yes.
And it just be a celebration.
Yes.
But it's still needed and it's still required.
Yes.
And as evidenced by last year with the bizarre string of hatred that came out of left field, you know, demanding, well, people who work in schools by what was it in Alberta? Was it Alberta or Manitoba where somebody tried to change the legislation where we get to choose who teaches gym and who teaches music? Manitoba. And I'm like, why those two? Oh, I know why those two subjects. Because who's usually the music or arts teacher might be a little light in the loafers, and a female phys ed teacher might be a little
manly.
Yeah.
According to a pamphlet handed out by the group, the protesters had 6 demands, chief among them the divestment from all corporations actively involved in violently exploiting native people on Turtle Island and in Sudan, Palestine, and the Congo. Okay. We're here for Palestine, protester Layla Salman said, and we're here to draw attention to the cause because that cause has gone completely unnoticed since October 7th. Apparently. Toronto police gathered further down the parade route but did not take any action with the protesters who left Yonge Street about 2.5 hours after they shut it down and marched west along Wellesley Avenue Street on the sidewalk. Police said they had adequate resources to address the protest but were respecting Pride Toronto's request that officers not interfere if the protesters disrupted the parade. Police spokesperson Laurie McCann told The Star. It was not an unfamiliar situation. In 2016, a Black Lives Matter group brought the parade to a standstill when it stopped its float for more than 30 minutes, similarly refusing to move until officials met their demands. The parade continued after Pride leaders signed the list of demands on the spot. But this year, the demands went unsigned. Protester Faisal Samir said Pride Toronto offered a meeting to think about the demands. And while the protesters sat in the street and chanted, the party continued just a few blocks over. Celebrations and bass-heavy music continued on Church Street, where vendors lined the pavement and restaurants overflowed. That was the atmosphere for most of the day along the parade route as spectators pressed against metal barricades 5 deep at points for the entirety of the 2.5-kilometer route, dancing, singing, and cheering as business groups and organizations marched by. That included SIBOL, SIBOL, the Filipino-Canadian Pride Network that formed last June. The group danced and waved the flag of the Philippines as it celebrated its first anniversary. Quote, "There was no formal organization like us before," said Leo Gubak, one of the group's founders. "That was a source of inspiration for us. Why don't we create one for this group of people in the community so we can find community and camaraderie together?" The group wasn't alone. As many as 500 of the 1,760 volunteers registered for this year's Pride celebrations were believed to be recent arrivals to Canada, something Pride Toronto's education and volunteer manager attributed to the flood of legislation and violence against LGBTQ communities around the world. New Canadians who happen to be rainbow understand that we are free nowhere unless we are free everywhere. And therefore, when they get here, start paying it forward by volunteering for Pride. Come tell me that new Canadians are not a benefit to this country.
Yeah, no kidding.
Come tell me that. And then try to not have me laugh in your face.
Did you see what Mad Max did?
Yeah, I did see that, but I'll finish this article and we'll get to him because he was way off.
Wow.
Volunteers helped facilitate the parade, a mammoth march with hundreds of groups participating. Floats blared Britney Spears' Toxic and Womanizer while drag queens danced and a TV helicopter circled overhead. Chris Collins drove in from Kitchener, Ontario to march with his company, the Ontario Teachers Insurance Program. The company provided him with a Pride shirt, but he had a vision for the rest of the outfit. So he added rainbow sunglasses, suspenders, a hat, and bow tie. And then there was a centerpiece, rainbow pants with peace signs and music notes purchased on a trip to Chicago, Illinois this spring specifically for the parade. "The pants say it all," said Collins, who had marched in the Pride parade since 2017. "You can't walk 5 minutes down the street without people stopping for our look, but it's been great. Everyone's been so social, so friendly, so fun. It's just a great time." There you go. And that's what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Great time. Because, yes, there's protest, but yes, we celebrate also how far we've come. We also mark how far we have to go. And we also take a moment to realize that the benefits of acceptance have not been distributed equally in Canada and certainly not throughout the world yet.
No.
So there's more work to do. But you do it all. It all happens on that one day.
Indeed.
Because, and other things too. We mourn people that we've lost to HIV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's sadness, there's joy, there's all of it gets put into this like big pot and becomes something. You know, if you the movie Inside Out, and Inside Out 2 is out right now and is doing box office, by the way, 3 weeks in a row. That's kicking butt.
Awesome.
But at the end of Inside Out, like this, we're introduced to the concept of mixed emotions.
Mm-hmm. Rolling Stones.
Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
If Pride isn't a celebration of mixed emotions, Juneteenth that just happened in the United States.
Yeah.
Right? It's mixed emotions. Like something terrible happened. It's not happening anymore as much. So we're celebrating it. How far we've come. But we also know how far we have to go. We also know that not everybody's benefiting. So, and we've lost a lot of people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that's common to most movements.
One would think.
Right? It's not any different just because we have boom boom music, less clothing, and seem to have a bit more joie de vivre.
Well, it's usually pretty fabulous.
Yes. But the variables may change, but the constants are the same.
Well, and do you remember last year when you, myself, and Alex were out on was it Saturday night, and
Yes.
it wasn't super crowded at that point,
Nope.
and it was a Saturday night, and we had met a woman who was not that
Yes.
young, who had just come out,
Yes.
and she was just celebrating her absolute freedom for the first time to be who she is,
That she's living her authentic self.
for the first time in her life.
Yes.
And she was saying how she struggled for decades and how much, and she's like, and look at all the three of you. I go, no, it's just the two of them. They're together. I'm just their friend. She goes, oh, and when did you come out? And I'm like, I don't know, a couple hours ago when we got here. And she looks at me, what? I go, no. And then you're like, no, he's not gay. He's just an ally.
There was a bit of a language barrier there too, as well.
But it was a moment that reminded me why it's still needed and required for somebody who has struggled with their sexuality, their identity, their entire life, to be able to suddenly be who they really are and no longer be afraid of being who they are. That's why it's still necessary. That's one of a myriad of reasons why it's still very much necessary. And there's work to be done. There's still work to be done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But hey, not all the prides are done just because Pride Month is over, right? There's much more. So because I know Vancouver hasn't had theirs yet, Ottawa hasn't had theirs yet, Quebec City hasn't had theirs yet. So there's still a lot to go on. So if you have an opportunity this year, and especially if you've never been to one, I guess, check one out. Check one out. It's a love fest. Everyone is welcome. All right. Let's get some happier news. Because we have some
happier news?
Canadians who have made us proud.
Oh, okay.
To celebrate.
I was like,
yes. Canadian tennis player, as we mentioned, Marina Stekusic, has made it to her first Grand Slam. She's playing in Wimbledon, which has started officially today. They had the qualification tournament last week, but the official tournament starts today. And Canadian tennis player Denis Shapovalov, who has been having a couple of up and down seasons, he's still not ranked in the top 100 because he's having some trouble stringing together three matches in a row. But for the second Grand Slam in a row, took out a seeded player somewhere along the way. So this last at the French Open, it was Taylor Fritz from the United States, I believe. And here it was Nicolas Jarry from Chile, who is ranked number 19th in the world. Okay. And Denis Shapovalov won the straight sets just before the show started. So congratulations to him, moving on to the second round of Wimbledon for the fourth time, I believe, consecutive time. So good for him. But hopefully he will have a good enough run to bring him back into the top 100 where he absolutely belongs. Because he's been having such a tough year, he wasn't actually named to the Olympic team this year either.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Felix Auger-Aliassime was named, and then the second man named to the team was Milos Raonic. Who's actually having a pretty good season, even though he has a very limited one, a short one. He doesn't play so much on clay. It's not so good for his hips. But he usually kind of tries to play a couple of tournaments and then pops in around the time of Wimbledon and then stays in the season as long as his body will hold up, hopefully throughout the Canadian Open and the US Open along the way. But yeah, he will be there, and he'll be playing doubles with Felix Auger-Aliassime there. Gabriela Dabrowski, of course, has been named to the team, and she will be playing doubles because she's one of the top 5 female doubles players in the world, so she'll be there. And she won a Wimbledon warm-up tournament about 3 weeks ago, and then was a finalist in one just on the weekend. She'll be playing doubles with Leila Annie Fernandez, who will be registered in singles as well. And Leila Annie Fernandez made her first final of the year on grass at Eastbourne just before Wimbledon starts. Rebecca Marino won a tournament in Ilkley, England, on grass. Unfortunately, she lost her first round qualification match, so she wasn't able to ride that momentum. And a couple of weeks ago, Bianca Andreescu made a final on grass. So I don't know what it is with Canadians on grass this year, but making finals, four finals in 3 weeks. for
Understand.
Canadians on grass. So hopefully it will be a good Wimbledon for Canadians who are there. Also, in terms of Canadians who have made us proud, this weekend there was the track and field nationals in Montreal. So many Canadian athletes officially booked their tickets for Paris there. And the Paris Olympics are now in less than 1 month. So it's getting exciting as Team Canada and all the various sports are naming their teams that are going. Our rowing team also named its national team, and it's really interesting because growing up, rowing was one of our marquee sports, right? Where we had several boats and we used to count for several medals. So I'm guessing we might be in a rebuilding phase because we've only had 2 boats qualify out of all the races that there are on rowing. The women's 8s, and I believe lightweight sculls pairs, if I'm not mistaken. But both of them are indeed medal contenders. So we have got 2. So it's not quantity this time around, but quality for our rowing team. The men's 8s just missed qualifying by like 1 spot at an event. A couple have said, like, I think it was even like, I think it might have not even been a full second
I don't know.
over the length of the race. 8 people, like this, I think was like less than a second. So that's just so close. In soccer or football, Team Canada is at the Copa America for the first time, and they won their first ever. Well, their first match was against Argentina, which is the best
They
team in
lost
the world.
2-0.
So they lost 2-0, but apparently they were very, very, very competitive.
Mhm. Well,
And
the keeper was
Yeah.
quite something.
Exactly. Apparently the goalkeeper stood on, an Argentinian goalkeeper stood on his head because
Oh, the
nobody
Canadian
understood how.
goalkeeper.
Oh, the
Canadian
Canadian.
goalkeeper.
Well, yes, but the Argentinian goalkeeper too, because no goals went in.
No, Canada didn't have a lot of opportunities to score. It's the Canadian keeper kept them in the game so that it was
Yes.
a 2-0 loss.
Yeah, okay. So, and then they played against Peru and won.
1-0.
So the 1-0, 1-0. And then yesterday they played against Chile and they ended up with a draw, which was enough. So Team Canada, in its first ever Copa America, advances to the playoffs. And is one of the top 8 teams.
They're in the quarterfinals.
The quarterfinals. So there you go. Go Canada, go. That's some great inspiration, great achievements leading into the Olympic tournament, which will be coming up. So it's always good to have some good results going in.
Mm-hmm.
A little belief, a little momentum. So yeah, and our golf team this year, whomever they will be, will definitely be going in on fire, particularly the men, because over the last 3-4 weeks, if you're looking on the results on the PGA Tour and senior PGA and everywhere, top 10s, top 5s, somewhere along the way they were leading. Todd Pendrith in particular is on fire. I think he's like picked up like a win and a couple of top 10s all in the last few weeks. So there might be something to look forward to from Canadians playing golf as well at the Olympics. We're still trying to get Devin Haru on the show. He's extremely busy because once again, the man has been tapped to do the 2 marquee events. So he's got swimming in week 1 and track and field in week 2. So he'll be covering, and he's been at the nationals. He was covering the swim nationals and the track and field nationals, which of course has been keeping him very busy in the lead up.
He's taken over for Steve Armitage, who famously did swimming and track, who retired a couple of years ago. He had health reasons, said he had to step down. Devin filled in, and then he came back, and then he retired.
Yeah. And Scott Russell, who you might recognize, has announced his retirement after this one.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So don't be too surprised if someday in the near future we see Devin Haru anchoring the Olympic broadcasts.
I can see that happening.
I'm calling it. It's going to happen at some point. If he already, at his age, has got the assignment of the 2 marquee events, I cannot see a reality in which he's not hosting the show, unless he decides he'd rather actually be at the events and says no, thank you. But in the studio, you get to interview, because everybody that wins or performs well gets to come in for an interview and whatnot. And man, God, that man can interview.
He's really good at it.
He's really good at his job. So, where essentially wherever he is, if he's in the general area, put him in, coach. Anywhere you put him in, he's going to do a great job. So, but yeah, I'm happy to see him get the marquee assignments at the marquee event, and he's got a beautiful future ahead of him. So hopefully, like I said, with going back and forth from place to place and trying to organize himself, because he's going to be in Paris for a good long while, because he's going to be there for the whole Olympics and Paralympics. So it's probably going to be over a month in a row. So, when you go away for over a month, there's a lot of things to prepare. Make sure people are taking care of your plants and things like that. So I'm sure he's a very busy man, but hopefully we'll be able to get some time with him before he goes so that we can talk and geek out on some Canadian athletes. Our track and field team in particular must mention that at the last Olympics won 2 gold, 2 silver, 2 bronze, and the track and field team being a little bold, but saying that anything less than that this time around will not be acceptable to them.
I agree.
I
think that's pretty much how the team feels as well.
Yes, our throwers, our sprinters, our decathletes, among others. That's where the stuff. Not so much in the jumping events, because for a while we were doing pretty good at high jump, and for a while we had some good contenders in heptathlon as well. Not the case. Keep an eye on the women's 4x400 meter relay, because they have been knocking on the door for so long that all they need is if the team gets on a roll, that might be the fuel that it needs to medal this time, which would be really, really nice, because that team has been putting in the work, really has. So we're going to have a lot to cheer about. So Wimbledon first, then Olympics.
Well, so I will be...
Oh, and Copa America, yes.
I will be in Calgary at the Stampede next week.
Excellent.
And I am going to shoot some footage. I picked up some new mini micro wireless mics. And I've got my gimbal stabilizer. I've got a bunch of stuff ready to go. I'm gonna shoot a bunch of video and I'm gonna see if I can crash a certain politician's barbecue.
Oh,
maybe a couple of politicians.
What are you plotting and scheming, Mr.
Well, you'll have to wait and find out. Oh, but wait, I have to show you something.
You're showing leg.
Give me a second. I'm gonna go.
You're showing leg. You are teasing.
I have to show you something. You're gonna like this. Just a second.
Okay. He is teasing, kids and cubs. Look at him showing some ankle. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. I know he also talked about Max, so I'm figuring we'll get to there. So before he comes back, I'm going to mention very quickly here for those of us who... Oh, hi there. I'm just mentioning a little something before you come in here. For our Canadians living in Atlantic Canada, you might want to get prepared, because the first major hurricane of the 2024 season, the first major hurricane of the 2024 season has island nations in the Eastern Caribbean on high alert. Storm watchers say that Hurricane Beryl stands out for how quickly it strengthened into a Category 4 storm. Local officials are telling people to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It's expected to pass just south of Barbados this morning before heading into the Caribbean Sea. It's on the path towards Jamaica with winds as fierce as 215 kilometers an hour and large destructive waves predicted for when Beryl makes landfall in the Windward Islands. Those are southern, generally larger islands of the Lesser Antilles, such as Carriacou, Dominica, Grenada, Martinique, Petite Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, for example. So that area. But Barbados also will probably be affected here. The Prime Minister of one of the nations in Barbados shared a video of local people heeding the government's advice to haul their boats out of the water. Mm-hmm. And Mia Motley called on people to conserve water. She's the Prime Minister of Barbados. She says it's early for this. We're talking a month or more ahead of schedule. And it only took 48 hours to reach the status of Category 4, which was very, very, very quick. According to news reports this morning, it's churning its way into Barbados. In Bridgetown, people were hammering metal sheets over the windows to prepare for the storm, which seems to have been downgraded to Category 3, which is better than 4, but at the end of the day, really, it's academic. So yeah, it seems that according to the latest weather reports, St. Lucia, Grenada, Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines are all under hurricane warnings as it's expected to make landfall. And not sure yet what the projections are about how it will affect Canadians in Atlantic Canada when it finally makes its way up the Atlantic, whether or not it'll be far enough out in sea that it won't affect the region too much, or whether or not they'll be hit. But in the next coming days, we'll probably be hearing more about that as it will affect Canadians. But so just be prepared to know that it could be coming. All right, Mr. Grizzly.
So Bridget's mom picked up this hat for me.
La 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 la.
And this is a Tom Campbell Smile hat from Calgary. This hat is probably 75 to 80 years old. And I gave it a good scrubbing, cleaned it up, and reshaped it because it has to be a cowboy hat for Stampede, right? So I've got it all decked out. I'll be wearing this at the Stampede next Saturday.
We like it. We like it. It's very stylish.
Oh. Yeah, and like I said, it's about 75, 80 years old, something to that effect.
Yeah. Speaking of Alberta, it seems that Premier Danielle Smith is a little confused.
She's a lot confused.
Yes. But apparently she has come out and stated something like, us in Alberta, we're going to opt out of that federal dental care program. Thank you very much. Which had a lot of people going, how do you do that given that it's an insurance program that people apply to individually and nothing is asked of the province in any way, shape, or form?
She's not very bright.
To occur?
She just wants to separate.
See, here's the thing, right? We're all talking about in the United States Joe Biden because he had a senior moment at a debate and, oh my God, he's done and whatnot. And we have, at the same time, we have Donald Trump telling people that Joan Rivers voted for him in the 2016 Republican presidential election, even though she died in 2014. But it's Joe Biden we're worried about. We have Danielle Smith that steps up and says, we're going to opt out of a program for which we don't have to do anything. And nobody's wondering about her mental competency for the job she holds. Biden is so old. Yeah. But the other guy believes that people that were dead 2 years before an election voted for him and that the person told them. Yeah. Here, one thing about the GOP, I guess dead voters really do exist. It's just that they vote GOP. Allegedly. Man. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Danielle Smith, come here, darling. Person, woman, man, TV. Repeat after me. Worried about you, girl. I'm just... God. Yeah, we're going to opt out of this thing that affects us in no way. Just looking to pick fights.
Like I said, she's a separatist. She wants to end CPP and install an Alberta pension plan that we all know the company she wants to have do it has lost billions over the last couple of years. So
that she ran on not doing, but apparently is going to do anyway now.
Do it anyway. She just wants to separate, but what she has to understand in that all of the prairies is on treaty land. You ain't going anywhere. The Crown and every province and every tribe and band would have to get together and agree to separation. And of course, if that were to happen, you need to remember that because it's treaty territory, the individuals who own that land would probably say, yeah, you can separate, but all you get is like Grand Prairie. That's it. Y'all got to move there because the rest of this belongs to us and we let you live on it. It's why there are casinos everywhere in Alberta, because they have the right to open them any damn place they want to. There's no provincial jurisdiction over that. It's not a reserve. It's all treaty land. Right. And for those of you who may have forgotten what that looks like, let me just put this little map on the old screen here for you to see. You can see Treaty 6, 7, 8, 10, and 4 make up all of Alberta. 8, 10, 6,
Saskatchewan.
4 are Saskatchewan with part of 5.
Yep.
2 parts of 5, 2, 1, and 3.
And a little bit of 2.
Manitoba, and a little bit of 2, correct? And 4.
Yeah, really.
It's all treaty territory. All of it.
All of it.
Only about a third of BC is treaty. And these are the numbered treaties. There's also territorial treaties, which don't show up on this map because this is numbered. Right?
Right.
So, yeah. Good luck with your separation thing.
Jeez. All right.
I have 2 quick things.
Oh, yes. You said you had something about Max as well there.
Yeah, Mad Max Bernier. I got a video. It's, how long is it here? It's 1 minute. It's exactly 1 minute long. This is Maxime Bernier being Maxime Bernier in PEI.
Yeah.
And judge for yourselves on this one, folks.
Stay.
Now you can stay, but when they're going to be expired...
We will see at that moment.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if some of you have their permit that are expired...
Nobody standing here is illegal. They have their permits.
But in your group of 100 people...
Nobody is expired. If they would have been expired, they would have been deported.
Okay, but they will be deported when it be expired.
This is why. No, they won't be deported.
You just said that when it's going to be expired, they will be deported.
They will be legalizing their stay. No deportation will be needed in that moment.
But we will need deportation.
That's why you need to have full knowledge. You are a leader. I think you should have a full knowledge before you get in here.
I have a full knowledge. I'm saying when the permit is expired, you must be deported.
You're saying my permit is expired. It isn't.
No, if it's not, but it will be in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months.
I can extend it.
But I hope they won't, because we don't need
they
you.
Will.
No, we don't need you here in this country.
How can you decide it?
Because
for example,
there's Canadians, there's young Canadians that can work at Tim Hortons.
Then they can. I'm not working.
Yeah. Okay. Number 1.
Max thinks that was a win, by the way. So do his supporters.
Yeah. Max is wrong.
Max is always wrong.
Always wrong. Yes, if people overstay their visas, they are at risk of being deported. But it's not like there's somebody from Labor Canada or Immigration Canada that's sitting there going, 8, 9, 10, okay, you're exported. Load them up on a plane, send them out. They have the opportunity to apply for extensions.
Yes.
Yes, they have the opportunity to leave of their own free will first. And then, if it seems that they haven't done it, and it's been a long time that they haven't done it, it's like, then deportation. But it's like Max Bernier used to like as soon as your thing is over, then you get deported.
Does he have a transporter?
No. It doesn't work that way. It's not like the day after your thing expires that you get a knock on the door and say, yeah, grab your stuff, we're rounding you up. It doesn't work.
There's not enough personnel to do that. Now every person works for CBSA.
It's just Max. And that young man had the patience of a saint.
Yeah.
That young man knew civics better than Max did.
Does that strike you as a shock?
And it's like, I think you should know what you're talking about before you come here and talk. I don't know what I'm talking. Well, you don't. Clearly.
And he says, you're a leader. You should know this. I thought that was great.
Right.
Max showing his racism card. Young Canadians can work at Tim Hortons. Hey, Max, you ever been in a Tim Hortons? Not a lot of people that look like me working in Tim Hortons. And that's basically his coded language. That's what he's trying to say.
Yes. Yes.
What he's trying to say.
We need more people who look like me serving me my donuts.
That's what he's saying.
We don't need you anymore. Va-t'en, là.
Well, it's kind of like how, Trump has gone on about how he intends to deport something like, I don't know, several million people in the United States of America. I'm like, your economy will crash in a heartbeat if that happens, because you do realize how much of the U.S. economy relies upon paid under the table and under minimum wage workers who are migrants. Some of them illegal. Some of them just migrant on a work permit, but they get paid less money, less than minimum wage. You do realize that the state of California, were that to happen, would come to a screeching halt. Somebody's got to do my lawn and my pool. That's the attitude a lot of people have. Well, guess what? The people who take care of those things, the people who work in nursing homes, the people who make hospitals run, those people that you don't see, there's millions of them. And without them, your country will stop. Food will rot in the fields because nobody will be picking it. It's a simple fact. It's a simple fact. That's it. It's an undeniable truth. Their economy relies upon migrant workers and illegal workers because people want to pay next to nothing.
Yep. I've going through some of the chat because on my main screen for some reason it's stalled for anything except for chat that's coming in through Twitter. But notice that Kit Cassie mentioned that the pro-Palestine groups blocked the Winnipeg's Pride Parade too earlier in June.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Hadn't heard about that bit at that time. But yeah, there you go. Right.
So I do have one. I have one quick video to show you. It's not
Okay.
long. It's not long, and I think it's fitting because this is by the man who was called the greatest Canadian, Tommy Douglas. And since the passing of Donald Sutherland, who was Kiefer's grandfather, or Kiefer's father, and his grandfather was Tommy Douglas, I thought I'd share this video.
Perfect.
This is from quite a number of years ago, but it's a testament to why he was voted in as Canada's greatest Canadian.
I think that medical care is so important that it ought not to have a price tag on it. I think that we have come to the place where medical care, like education, ought to be available to every citizen, irrespective of their financial state. I think that
Very short and
medical
sweet.
care is so important.
But to the point.
Yep, I concur. I absolutely concur. Speaking of Canada Day, I saw a comment also from Tavi G, noticing that there was a commentator on CBC that was complaining that the Prime Minister was not in Ottawa for Canada Day this year, kind of linking it to when he went to Tofino for the first National Truth and Reconciliation Day in order to leave the whole space to the Indigenous community. Well, yes, the Prime Minister is not in Ottawa. He's in Newfoundland and Labrador. Because while in Canada, all of Canada, we celebrate Canada Day, in Newfoundland and Labrador in particular, Canada Day also happens to be Memorial Day.
Yes.
Which is a somber and historic day, and particularly this year because the province has an unknown soldier that is being entombed at Newfoundland's National War Memorial with a full military funeral. What a bastard the Prime Minister is for going there on Canada Day. Apparently, that's the narrative. That's the narrative. Newfoundland's unknown soldier was killed more than 100 years ago in northern France and is being laid to rest today. He was lying in state in the lobby of the provincial legislature all weekend. Thousands of people paid their respects. It was an emotional time for relatives of soldiers with no known grave. So a lot of them made a point of going over the course of the weekend. The soldier is being placed in a tomb made of granite and labradorite, I believe. I don't know I've never heard of it before. but I'm guessing it's a type of stone, at the Newfoundland National War Memorial. He was repatriated from France in late May to represent everyone killed. But for Wade Lester, this is according to the CBC, he stands for so much more. Quote, well, it's freedom. That's democracy, and we got to keep it intact. And sometimes we may have to fight for democracy, said Wade Lester. Canada's Prime Minister and the Governor General, along with other dignitaries, will be there to pay respects. So will 500 members of the Royal Canadian Legion. 800 forget-me-nots are being left inside the tomb as a symbol of remembrance. So I'm guessing that not only the Prime Minister is ambassador, but so is the Governor General, as well as the 500 members of the Royal Canadian Legion who will be going. Because I'm guessing it's not just one person being there that would wouldn't be just the Prime Minister going that would make him ambassador. I'm guessing would be everybody that could have been in Ottawa instead, but didn't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we doing a sliding scale ruler again? Commentator on CBC who decided to try to make this a thing. Personally, I have no problem with our Prime Minister being there.
No,
that's where he should be.
That's where he should be.
That's where he should be.
You know?
Yeah. Special coverage of the memorial began at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, so it's probably over by now. And 9
a.m. here.
Yeah, 9 Newfoundland.
9 Newfoundland. Sorry.
Yes, 7:30 Eastern time was being broadcast on CBC. But you might be able to check it out if you're interested in that afterwards on YouTube, or maybe it'll be a standalone on the CBC Gem website, whatnot. But this evening, please, if you have the opportunity to, if you're not doing something somewhere else, or if you're recording it to watch later, the Canada Day concert happening at LeBreton Flats Park. It's a 2-hour show, and it will feature performances from Chromeo, Metric, Maestro Fresh West, Neon Dreams, and a whole bunch of other people. Will be hosted by Isabelle Racicot, again, who generally does a very good job of it. Also, if you are out shopping today, you may notice in your coins that there's something new. It seems that last week, 3 million new coins commemorating the 150th birthday of Lucy Maud Montgomery went into circulation. It will feature a portrait of the much-loved author, as well as Anna Green Gables, a pen and a paper, as well as Montgomery's signature. Marie Lemay, who's the president and CEO of the Royal Canadian Mint, says, the only thing is I just want to temper everybody's expectations. By the time they get into circulation, often people say, we don't see those coins. Because what happens is that when you see one, you usually want to keep it.
Exactly.
So you take it out of circulation. So if you see one, keep it. That's the advice of the CEO of the Royal Canadian Mint. The coin was unveiled in Cavendish, Prince Edward Island, where Montgomery was raised and is buried. So there you go.
So one more thing I've got for you here, and then I got to wind it up. I got to get a couple of things taken care of before I head to a Canada Day celebration in my Speedo. It revolves around the Ontario Science Centre and how we figured out a way to fix it.
Yes.
We just figured out a way to get the roof fixed. Doug Ford's going to take care of it, courtesy of Michael DeAtter.
It's a beer center.
The Ontario Beer Centre.
Yeah.
X out science, put in beer. Dougie'll fix it.
Beer.
I just have a cup of coffee.
Beer it is.
No, I said coffee.
Beer.
Coffee.
B-E.
C-O.
Love it. Okay.
That might get copyright infringed. I might have to edit that out.
Yes. A couple of things to mention before we go. A little more on the international side. On June 30th was the first round of elections in France. Remember, there were snap elections called by French President Emmanuel Macron after the European parliamentary elections. The first round of elections did not go well for Emmanuel Macron. The far right is on the verge of taking power in France. That's the way the media is spinning it. Early results suggest the National Rally got 34% of the vote, not enough for an outright victory, but far more than the left and the centrist alliances. Marine Le Pen, who's the leader of that moment, who spent her political career trying to take France's far right from the fringes to the precipice of power, she said that democracy has spoken. The Bloc of President Macron has been erased, and that's what she said. Now,
It's a little
calling
disturbing.
the snap election was a gamble for Macron, and he lost it. He had bet that voters would balk at the prospect of the Rassemblement National, that's the RN, actually forming a government in France. But as the ballots were being counted, other parties began maneuvering to block the RN or National Rally in a final runoff vote next week. So I believe it's July 7th. The top two parties get together and have a runoff vote. Gabriel Attal, who's the current prime minister, called for a broad alliance to ensure the RN does not gain a majority. So right now, the bloc of left and centrist, not the left and centrist alliances, but the bloc that did finish along with Le Pen's bloc in second place is now going to try to campaign to get the votes of the people that voted for Macron's bloc to try to bring themselves over 50 and block Le Pen from becoming the leader.
Well, that would be a good thing because she's dangerous.
Yes. Now, the day before, there was thousands of people protested the far-right national rallies by participating in gay pride celebrations. Tens of thousands of people marched, and they said that they'll face greater discrimination if the far-right national rally forms the government. The Interior Minister asked police to provide extra security for the parade on that day because the national rally is a socially conservative and anti-immigrant party that has previously voted against expanding rights for the rainbow community. Last night, after the vote, there were some protests and a little bit of mayhem. Protesters tipped over trash cans and set off flares after the results came in. The results are a setback for the president, of course, whose centrist coalition came in third place behind a left-wing alliance. So, like we mentioned, the left-wing alliance and Macron's centrist alliance will try to get into some deal-making in order to get 50%. Elsewhere in Europe, as things are going from bad to worse, Hungary takes over the European Union's rotating presidency today. Yes, Viktor Orban, who is a longtime critic of the EU, says that he, quote, wants to make Europe great again.
Where have we heard that before?
My God, these people have no original ideas.
No.
The populist leader repeatedly claims that the EU threatens Hungarian sovereignty, is destroying its middle class and its agricultural sector, and has vowed to shake up the power structures in Brussels. For its part, the EU has in recent years withheld tens of billions of dollars worth of funding to Hungary over Orban's many violations of the bloc's rule of law principles. While he's been leader, Orban has taken away the independence of his country's judiciary and media and hasn't bothered to correctly implement the asylum and immigration laws. Now, the only good part of that is that the rotating presidency of the EU lasts 6 months. So I'm not sure how much making Europe great again he's going to be able to accomplish at that time. But hey, have at it, buddy. And the last thing that I had for you today relates to the United States. The Supreme Court of the United States is expected to issue its ruling in the immunity case for Donald Trump. The former president is facing charges for attempts to overturn the 2020 elections results and a whole bunch of other things, and he argues that his actions were official, and as president that he is immune to all prosecution.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not sure how the Supreme Court will rule on that, because I know that the Supreme Court would probably love to give him total immunity, but given that Joe Biden is the president right now, if they rule that the president has total immunity, well, they basically just given Joe Biden the authority to say, no, I don't respect the result of the next elections.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay. So, yeah. Not exactly sure how it is that they are going to decide this one. It seems that Trump has also named his vice president pick, which is Republican Senator J.D. Vance, the guy that wrote the book The Hillbilly Elegy.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to have taken a turn to the right since then.
Very much so.
Yeah. Not quite sure exactly what it is, but yes, it seems that he is his Trump's vice presidential pick officially.
And not Aaron Rodgers,
and not Aaron Rodgers, and not Doug Burgum. Yeah, really, Aaron Rodgers. In other news that might cause some celebration, Steve Bannon reports to jail today.
Oh, well, happy Steve Bannon reporting to jail day if you celebrate.
Yes, and for those of you who don't, it's okay. We can still coexist.
Exactly.
but there might be much gloating. The forecast calls for gloating and perhaps a little derision. But yes, Senor Tres Camisas is reporting for jail today. Apparently his last attempt to stay out of jail was quashed by the Supreme Court. Now, of course, this is not a long stint. It'll only about 1 month. This is the case for having defied the subpoena to testify before Congress. Peter Navarro, the other person who did it, is also already gone to jail for his 1 month. But Steve Bannon also has that infamous Build the Wall grift trial coming as well, which will probably send him to jail for many, many, many more years if he is found guilty. And because in that case it's state charges, there is no possibility of a pardon should Trump win again. So
I don't know if you saw this. This is in different news. This is from Mark Carney. I'm going to put this on the screen and read it to you. Is there some subtlety taking place here? He says, "What a joy to wake up here. The fortune of being born in a small Canadian town, growing up in a time of enormous opportunities. The challenges we face, we can solve. Together, we can renew that spirit of boundless possibilities and shape the next Canadian century in the finest place in the world." Is that maybe
that sounds very campaigny, rallying-y.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Carney, and I wish to be your next prime minister.
Well, I mean,
I approve this message.
It sounds like it.
We
may be reading things into it that we want to hear, possibly, but, it sounds like it.
Sounds like it.
Could be.
Stay tuned, kids and cubs. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
I'm noticing I'm having really good hair out there. Look at all this body on the...
Oh, shut up.
Damn.
Shut up. I have to go shave.
By the way, kids and cubs, just as a quick note, because I'm allowed to speak a little bit more about it. Beaver Sweetie is okay. But I guess he did have a car accident on Thursday night. Everybody seems to be fine physically. The car might be a write-off, however, so expensive. It's been a tough few days because when you have an accident like that, fortunately for me, I was not in the car at the time, but as they say, most accidents happen within 5 minutes of home, and that was the case this time. Yeah. So it was just about a 4-block walk to be able to go be by his side after it had happened. But when something like that happens, you get a little rattled.
Oh yeah, understandably so.
So emotionally, my Beaver Sweetie is not as well as he could be. So hopefully helping them work through that as much as I can over that. But ultimately we are fine. And to everybody who suggested or who offered us help in order to be able to get to the family gathering that we had planned to go to, which we did get to go to, we were able to find and rent a car on Canada Day. Amazingly, which is tough to do, but we did. We went and we had an amazing time with our family out in the Lakefield area, which was beautiful. So thank you. And there are even some people that offered to send us money to help us with it. Thank you, very, very, very kind. We don't need it.
Okay.
We are not rich by any means, but we are comfortable-ish. We own a house, right? So we're comfortable-ish, which is not the case for everyone. So thank you. Very, very much appreciate the kindness. It warmed my heart. But we will not be accepting those offers. We don't need to take away from anybody to be able to cover this. Like this, if you want to donate to the show, absolutely, that's a completely different venture. We're social capitalists. We want to make money. But for me personally, we're good. But I was overwhelmed by the love. And I thank you so much, kids and cubs.
Awesome.
Yes. For those of you who are following our progress, last I checked, we were at 3,910 on our YouTube subscribers. I saw some comments also about some kits wondering about the numbers. We don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know.
Like right now in the live stream, there's 1,176 viewers.
Yeah, we bought some advertising that we did do. As we mentioned, we talked about it on the show. Some people said we went and bought ourselves subscribers. We don't know if that's what YouTube does with it. The one thing that I found interesting is that our the viewer counts on our videos don't seem to be going up proportionally with our subscriber base. So we wonder too, because we thought that there would be a change. We're noticing that on our main page, because we have the live page and the video page, activity is boosting up a little bit on the video page. So maybe some of the new subscribers don't know to go to video, but there's still not our numbers that are reflective of the growth of our subscriber base. So we don't know where the subscribers, how it is that they're being accounted for, and how they come, and what happens at the YouTube end of it. All that we know is that we seem to have, when we hit 1,000, something happened to the algorithm or something, or maybe in combination with the advertising, and we seem to have been, we seem to be growing. So we did not hit 4,000 prior to Canada Day. There might still be a chance that we hit it on Canada Day, but if I'm assuming that most people are out celebrating, probably might not be today. But hey, this is way, way, way more than we thought. We were hoping for 1,000. Yeah, we almost went 4 times that. So
yeah, that's a big jump.
We're not.
A lot of the new subscribers are from different parts of the world too, because the ad campaign is airing in the United States, Canada, England, Scotland, Ireland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and the largest English-speaking nation on Earth, India. And I think 40% of the new subscribers are from India. So thank you.
Yeah. So again, it might be a case of, like I said, don't know why so many people in India are interested specifically. And I would guess that it would probably be extraordinary to assume that they would be daily viewers.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have something to do with the fact that we have some diplomatic tensions with the nation, and therefore some people might be a little more interested in following us, seeing if we have anything in our descriptions that mention India at any given time, and then and it could be like positive watching, like it could be people that are monitoring to see whether or not we say anything about India that some people find unflattering and unacceptable, so that they can then post some comments and correct quote that information. We don't know. So yes, for people that are wondering about the growth in numbers and say, hey, it looks a little suspicious, from that point, that's what YouTube does, and we don't know how that works. We're still kind of new here, but we assume, or I would like to assume, that these are people that are interested in our show, and we count you among our kits and cubs until we know better. So welcome. And however, whether you watch once a week or once a month, whether you're watching just for stuff that's mentions your country, or whether you watch regularly, maybe also could just be simply just everyday people in other nations who say, hey, what a cool initiative. I want to support that, and click subscribe and then never watch. And
that happens. A lot of people subscribe and just don't tune in. And hey, I get it. We all have busy lives.
But clearly, like this, having high subscriber number really makes us happy. But of course, we prefer it when you watch, of course. So, but yeah, that's kind of what's going on there, kids and cubs. So, please do not assume any ill intent on our part, or us trying to be sneaky or underhanded. We don't know what's going on. Like this, we knew that if we hit 1,000, something would happen. We did our best to hit that. We know that, if you buy advertising, stuff is supposed to happen. So we tried that. We're just doing the things that we assume that we should do in order to be able to grow and increase our reach. And then the rest of it's kind of out of our hands.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right. Okay, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we loved making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring, and that word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps and poops know all about us. And if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, well, hey, you do not have to. Why not make like the Ray Girl and go to our Podpage site, podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. Sorry, excuse me, I have to sneeze. Pardon me.
Bless you.
I've actually been fighting it off for a couple of minutes. If you could hear in my voice every now and then, I would get to a word and stop for a second. But it finally came out. Hey, it came out one day after Pride Month.
Oh my
All right. So if the QR code that will appear here will lead you to our pod page. Thanks to the Ray Girl for sponsoring it. And if you click there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it will come directly to you. As soon as hopefully Mr. Grizzly will put it up eventually there. The QR code to get to our pod page. If you would like to support us in other ways, make like Kit Elaine and go to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. If you have not subscribed yet, please do help us to get to 4,000. The day is not over yet, so technically we could still get to 4,000 on Canada Day, if not by. So, hey, but if it doesn't, it'll happen eventually. That's fine. We're good with that too. We thank you for your support so far. But while you're there, smash with our buttons, like, share, subscribe. Get yourself some happy. Hey, you know what? It's Canada Day. Do it twice. It's not like anybody's watching. It's not like we judge. Just saying. Hey, we don't judge. And if you get freaky however you want. And if you would like to support us in other ways, then please make your way to the Emergency Beaver Fund. No, that's not it. The Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. There it is. That's what you call it. At our coffee page. Help us celebrate the second birthday of our YouTube channel by going over there and encouraging us to do more. Got a couple of loonies. Hey, maybe even some Lucy Maud Montgomery ones. Jingling in your pocket. We'll keep those ones. But the other ones, if you want to send them our way, we'd be very, very, very happy to lighten your load this Canada Day. So you scan the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head, and that brings you to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you do that, and leave a bit of money there, as Kit Jen would say, and again, happy birthday, darling. Help keep us moist. It's a hot day, this Canada Day. We need to stay hydrated, especially if we want to return tomorrow after all this partying and celebrating. Hey. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your eager beaver saying it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom, please.
Yeah, if you're going to celebrate tonight and have a couple of wobbly pops, don't drive. Please don't drive. Take an Uber, a taxi, a bus. Make arrangements to stay over somewhere if you need to. Just don't drive if you're going to imbibe. Please don't drive.
Yes. Very, very, very important. Make sure that everybody gets home safe and in one piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we prefer you, kids and cubs, in one piece. All right. It could be a tough world out there, kids. Hopefully not today, but it can be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, I think it might be time to cue the Canada cock.
Sure.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, Hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
Hello, everyone. Happy Canada Day. No matter where you are, I hope you're celebrating the incredible people, the land, and the story that is Canada. It's a story that began more than 157 years ago with Indigenous peoples who've called this land home since time immemorial. It's a story of sacrifice. When Canadian soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, they knew they were risking their lives. But freedom, even for those across an ocean, even for generations of people they'd never meet, was worth fighting for. Our rights and freedoms are never guaranteed. They're safeguarded every day by trailblazers, journalists, activists, organizers, people who want to keep building a country where we can disagree, sometimes passionately, but where we always come together in the pursuit of something greater than ourselves. A country where everyone has a fair shot, no matter who they are, where they come from, how they pray, or whom they love. Those are the values that hold us together as Canadians. It's the reason so many people around the world save up everything they have and leave behind everything they know to be part of our story. It's a story that includes injustices, ones that we're confronting on our shared path of reconciliation. It's a story of learning that we're stronger not in spite of our differences, but because of them. And it's a story that's still being written by incredible Canadians who step up for their community and country. From the workers and volunteers who cared for our most vulnerable in the long days of the pandemic, to the brave first responders who even now race towards danger to protect homes from wildfires, to the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces who stand on the front lines fighting for democracy and freedom. People, brave, kind, resilient people. That is the story of Canada. That's what makes our country the very best place on earth. So let's keep making it even better. Happy Canada Day.